The lights flicker once, twice. Then the hum of the fridge dies, and the silence that follows is the loudest thing you've ever heard. Outside, a car alarm is screaming into an empty street. Your phone shows 1 bar, then no bars, then nothing but the time. And the time is wrong. You walk to the window. A neighbor is standing in his driveway in a bathrobe, holding a baseball bat, looking up at the sky like it owes him an explanation. Somewhere 3 blocks over, glass breaks, then cheering. Then more glass. You think, okay, I've seen this movie. I'll just drive to the store and grab some water and batteries and ride it out. That right there, that single, reasonable, catastrophically stupid thought. That is mistake number 1. And it's the mistake that kills more people than any bullet ever will. Because collapse doesn't kick the drawer down. Collapse walks in wearing a nice shirt and tells you everything's going to be fine. Stay with me. We're going to walk through the 10 dumbest moves the unprepared make in the first 72 hours, and by the end of this, you'll spot every single one coming a mile away. There's one mistake near the end that even most so-called preppers get wrong, and it's the one that'll separate the quick from the buried. We'll get there. First mistake: trusting the normal. I call this one the first 15 minutes. When the grid blinks, the unprepared brain runs a little program that says, "This is temporary, somebody's fixing it, I'll just wait." Psychologists have a name for it. It's called normalcy bias, which is basically your brain being a drama queen in reverse, refusing to admit the party's over. FEMA's own after-action watching reports on Hurricane Katrina showed that over 70% of residents in the worst-hit zones waited too long to act. Not because they didn't hear the warnings, but because their gut said, "Nah, not me, not here." The thief of the apocalypse isn't panic. It's denial wearing house slippers. Mistake number 2, running to the store. The second they realize it's real, the unprepared grab keys and sprint to the nearest Walmart. Here's the thing nobody tells you. The shelves are already gone. In 2020, during the early COVID supply panic, national surveys showed bottled water stock dropped 86% in 48 hours. 86%. And that was a slow-motion crisis where people still had functioning credit cards. In a real grid-down event, you have maybe 3 hours before the store is a scene from a documentary about locusts. You're not shopping. You're entering a scrum for the last can of ravioli with a guy named Doug who hasn't eaten yet and brought a crowbar. Mistake number 3, the gas station pilgrimage. Your car has a quarter tank. You think, I'll just top off real quick. So does every other person in a 15-mile radius. Most gas pumps run on electricity, so when the grid dies, they die. The ones still running become pressure points, and pressure points in a collapse mean lines, tempers, and the guy 2 cars back who just realized he can take yours. Here's a number that'll stick in your head. The average American household keeps less than 2 days of food on hand. 2 days. That's the buffer between civilization and your neighbor eyeing your dog. Mistake number 4, staying loud. The unprepared do something fascinating in the first night of collapse. They light up. Every light on, TV blaring whatever signal they can still pull, generator running on the porch like a dinner bell. A house that looks lived in and full during a blackout is not a home, it's a billboard. It says, groceries inside, come see, go dark, go quiet, blackout curtains or a blanket hell, a garbage bag taped to the window if that's what you've got. You want to be the most boring house on the block. Boring survives. Mistake number 5, talking. This one is painful because it's human. You see your neighbor, you want to commiserate. You mention, oh yeah, we stocked up last year, we've got plenty. That sentence, cheerful and kind, is a coordinate. You just told a scared, hungry person exactly where the food is. I've watched this happen in minor disasters, not even full collapse, and trust me, the sweet lady across the street changes face real fast around hour 60 without electricity. Say little. Share if you choose to, but choose deliberately. Loose lips don't sink ships anymore. They empty pantries. Let me break the fourth wall for a second. If you're still with me, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because the mistakes get nastier from here, and the YouTube algorithm has this funny habit of burying videos like this one right when people need them most. Consider it cheap insurance. Back to the list. Mistake number 6. Cash blindness. The unprepared forget that when the card readers die, the economy snaps back 200 years overnight. A survey by the Federal Reserve in 2023 found that only about 18% of Americans carry more than $50 in physical cash. 18%. The rest are digital ghosts. In a grid-down week, cash is king, but small bills are the crown jewels. Nobody's breaking 100 for a gallon of water. Ones, fives, tens, coins even. You want to be able to buy a loaf of bread without tipping your hand that you've got a roll of bills the size of a burrito. Mistake number 7. Water, too late. People think food first. Food is the instinct. But you can go weeks without food and about 3 days without water before your kidneys start writing their resignation letter. The unprepared drain their toilet tanks on day 4, drink bad water on day 5, and spend day 6 introducing themselves to a strain of dysentery that will, and I cannot stress this enough, ruin their week. Fill every container you own the second the power dips. Bathtubs, pots, the cooler, the kids' wading pool. Water is a thief too, and it leaves fastest when you're not looking. Mistake number 8. The lone wolf fantasy. Some guy in a tactical vest on the internet told you that you're going to disappear into the woods with a Bowie knife and live off squirrel meat. That guy has never tried it. Real survivors? Every study from wartime Sarajevo to post-hurricane Puerto Rico show the same thing. People in groups live. People alone die. Even the toughest operators need somebody to sleep so the other can watch. You don't need an army. You need 3 people you'd trust with your last sandwich. Remember earlier when I said collapse walks in wearing a nice shirt? This is where that comes back. The unprepared spend the first 72 hours convinced they can handle it solo, and by hour 90, they're starting to realize the nice shirt had teeth. Mistake number 9. Showing strength wrong. Here's the part you won't hear on most channels. There's a difference between being strong and looking strong. The guy who walks out of his house openly carrying, with a full tactical loadout, waving at everybody like Rambo on a neighborhood watch patrol, is not intimidating. He is a target wearing a gift tag. He's telling everyone within 500 feet this house has guns worth taking. Capability should be invisible. Be the gray man. Look tired, dirty, ordinary. Look like you've got nothing, and then, only if it goes that way, surprise them with the fact that you've got everything. And here's one. A quote a friend of mine who wrote out a real collapse in another country told me over coffee once, and I've never forgotten it. He said, "In the good times, people admire what you have. In the bad times, they take it." Think about that for a second. And this is the one, the big one. The unprepared wait for someone to tell them it's officially bad. They wait for the news anchor, the government alert, the official declaration. They wait for permission to be afraid. And by the time that permission arrives, the roads are closed, the shelves are stripped, the rules have changed, and the people who moved on hour 1 are already 3 days ahead of you in every way that matters. The official word always comes last. Always. By design or by accident, doesn't matter. It always comes last. So here's the science of why all 10 of these mistakes keep happening. Generation after generation, disaster after disaster. Your brain evolved for a world where the biggest threat was a bad harvest or a bear. It did not evolve for a world where the lights go out and 40 million people on a power grid are suddenly feral. Normalcy bias, herd behavior, denial, optimism. These aren't character flaws. They're factory settings. The only way to beat them is to decide, before it happens, that you will act on the flicker, not the blackout. You will act on the flicker, not the blackout. You will fill the tub on the rumor, not the confirmation. You will be the weirdo who was ready, not the reasonable person who wasn't. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments, tell me about the closest brush you've had with a real no-kidding grid-down moment. Storm, blackout, wildfire evacuation, anything. What was the first thing you reached for, and what did you wish you'd done differently? Your story might be the thing that saves somebody scrolling through this at 2 in the morning. Picture it again. The lights flicker. Twice. The fridge goes silent. Outside, the car alarm starts screaming. But this time, you don't walk to the window. You don't drive to the store. You don't call your cousin and tell him you've got plenty. You move. Quiet, fast, already rehearsed. Tub fills. Curtains close. Cash comes out of the envelope in the drawer. Door locks. Phone off. By the time the neighbor in the bathrobe starts asking the sky for answers, you're 3 steps ahead. Lights out. Heart steady. Dog at your feet. That's not luck. That's the difference between watching a video and becoming the person it was made for. If this helped you see the cracks before they widen, hit subscribe and ring the bell, because the next one covers the 7 things you should do in the first hour of a blackout that most preppers never think of, and you don't want to find out you needed it the hard way. Act before the flicker, not after.